All right, now coming in at number 25 on our Locked On Senators 2023 draft rankings, it's Gavin Brindley. This kid is awesome to watch. He's a guy who Michigan just finished his freshman year there, and he's a guy that puts up points at the college level. But not only that, he is the biggest pain in the ass to play against. If you have to go shift to shift against this guy, nonstop motor.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, EP awarded him second best motor in the draft. So that goes to show how much this kid really just keeps going. A Florida kid, which we're starting to see more and more often here, Ross. But the story for Gavin Brindley is the size here. 5'9", 157 pounds. But that's just the thing. Like, Ross, you love to say this, so I'll steal your line. He's always been small, right? Like, it's not like being small is a new thing for him. So he's had to find ways to work around that. And if you're going to be small, you better have a high motor and you better not let it get you down. Like, you better not let all the bigger, stronger players just disappoint you and, you rely on doing crazy skilled plays to make your way. That's not what Gavin Brindley does. I think he's a great two-way forward that, like you mentioned, other teams are just going to it's like shooing a fly away from you. Like, it's unrelentless. And you're just like, come on, get out of here. And eventually it gets the best of you. So Gavin Brindley, he played a big role for the Michigan Wolverines last year.
He certainly did, with 12 goals, 26 assists, good for 38 points in 41 games. And Pilsy, you talk about size being an issue. It wasn't an issue when he's playing against kids older than him anyways, because he's already one of the youngest kids in college hockey. Being an October birthday, he's able to play his draft year in the college ranks. And this is after 2 full seasons at the USHL and then getting to kind of join the US national team program a little bit later on in the process. Dude, he played World Juniors this year as a draft eligible. Like, you don't often see guys, especially this, like Adam Fantilli was like a 4th line guy on Team Canada as the draft ranking. Meanwhile, he had 4 points in 7 games. He's able to kind of get a consistent shift. And to do that, I mean, it just speaks to the drive, the competitiveness, and teams are going to fall in love with that. It's just in the NHL against the strongest players. Like, we talk about Jonathan Marchessault being about the same size as Gavin Brindley, but his game isn't to, intimidate. It isn't to run guys through the wall. Like, he's able to score and he's able to be competitive. Nobody's saying that Marchessault isn't competitive, but I think that Gavin Brindley's probably going to end up being, if he hits his ceiling, like a 3rd line guy who can kind of do a bit of everything, but he's going to have to come in and hit guys and make it tough on oppositions night in and night out. And I think there might just be a bit of growing pains with that for a guy who's going to be, like, he's 165 pounds right now, Pilsy. Like, he's got to go in there and earn the respect from NHLers. I'm not saying he can't do it, but there's a reason why he's a little bit lower. If this guy, and I hate to kind of go back to it, but it's just a fact with NHL teams. If this guy was 6'3", we're looking at a top 15 pick, a lottery pick, no question.
Yeah, I think that's fair to say, because getting away from the size talk, Ross, he's a good all-around prospect that plays hard. From the highlights I saw of him, he gets a stick in lanes to break up passes. He battles in the corner for being a small guy. And EP mentioned that he really improved his puck play as the season went along. And I mean, he almost finished at a point-per-game clip with 38 points in 41 games. And he was on a Michigan team that, if you want to get ice time on that stacked squad, you better be pretty decent, or you better be doing something the coach likes. And he did get ice time, Ross. Only Adam Fantilli had more average time on ice than Gavin Brindley did.
Very interesting, because I was going to come at it from a different perspective and saying, hey, if guys are feeding him, maybe a little easier for him to get points, at least in that kind of role. But you're saying, man, you got to convince your coach that you're a benefit to have on the ice.
Exactly. Yeah. Like Gavin Brindley, I love the way he thinks the game of hockey. Like, Wheeler mentioned that he never stands still. And I love seeing that from guys, because once you start standing still and you start watching the play, you're flat-footed and you're already putting yourself a step behind any play that's going to happen, whether it's transitioning up ice, a turnover, a quick pass, or whatever it is. you've already put yourself at a disadvantage. So keep those feet moving, keep it going. Like, he's got so much energy that I think coaches are going to love Gavin Brindley. Like, he's going to be one of those guys like, I'm blanking on the guy's name. Is it Zach Dalpe? A really small guy, used to play for Columbus.
He plays for Florida.
Okay, so he's in Florida. So yeah, that's a guy that his whole life he had to grind it out. And they had him on Chicklets, and he told insane stories of his dad having to do crazy stuff to motivate him, to keep him playing hard. And I think Gavin Brindley is one of those guys where you don't need to motivate him. He gets it. He knows he's smaller, and he knows if he's going to stick around, he's got to do things that other players aren't willing to do, or play at a higher intensity level, and he's doing it.
He certainly is. And I think he needs a bit of time, though, right? This isn't a guy who's going to step into the NHL next year or the year after.
No, I really don't think so. But I mean, if you're at University of Michigan playing with the Wolverines, that's a great place to be. Nothing wrong with hanging out there. And Ross, get the protein shakes going, Gavin. Hit the
Ridley
gym.
Gregg diet?
Yeah, the Ridley Gregg diet, 4 protein shakes a day, one with every meal, and then a midnight snack one. Like, you got to get that going. And I think that can do a lot for him. So for me, Ross, this is such a hard prospect to rank. And I'm sure scouts had the same problem here, because he seems to play the right way. Like I mentioned, I love so much about him, and he has the talent. He put up points. I'm just worried if he doesn't get that size, he won't be able to develop properly up against bigger, stronger competition.
I love the differing opinions on Gavin Brindley, though. One Western Conference scout in February told elite prospects that he's not a pick for him because the skill level's good, but not great. And to be at that size, you have to be really fast, but he's not sure that Brindley's really that fast out there. And then another Western Conference scout says to EP, it's funny, you'd watch Michigan and Fantilli season, made you forget about how good this kid is. I think he could be one of the better players in this draft when we look back at it. So I think that's about as wide a variety of opinions that we could get from a player like Gavin Brindley. So I'm going to break the middle. I'm going to say he goes towards the end of the first round. Pick 25 to 32 is where I'd look for Gavin Brindley to go. And I think the team that gets him there is going to be really excited. And he's the kind of guy where, especially at college next year, a lot of fans of their team are going to be throwing up his highlights and be like, how did we get this guy at the end of the first round? Because he's going to be over a point per game at Michigan next year and a big part of what they do going forward.
Yeah, I agree. I think, Ross, I really see Gavin Brindley as a guy that a team takes in the late first round that already has taken a first round pick, right? They've already banked on that high upside guy earlier on. And then they're like, okay, we like this kid. And what's going on?
It's going to be Montreal at 31, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was looking at, honestly. Yeah.
So mad.
Yeah, that could be a spot for him for sure. So I think it's worth rolling the dice on this kid, but you can't put all your prospect chips on him to pan out. So it's going to be interesting to see what team decides to go for him.
It is worth noting it's more than just Montreal at the end of the first round that has multiple picks. St. Louis actually has 3 picks. Could that be a landing spot? They have 25 and 29 as well as 10th overall. And the San Jose Sharks, who are drafting 4th, also have the 26th pick. They got that in the Timo Meier trade. Nashville could be a good spot. We know that in the past, they're not afraid of drafting undersized guys. Hell, their GM's pretty undersized, Barry Trotz himself. So he's able, maybe to relate. And he said, and this is why Nashville's so interesting to me, they said, give me the highest upside players available. We'll fill out the rest of our roster as can be. So I'm curious to know where Gavin Brindley will go in the draft, but an electric ball of fury when he steps out on the ice with a ton of skill as well. Gavin Brindley comes in at number 25 on our Locked On Senators NHL Draft Rankings.